Happy Monday! It's the Prop Queen taking you to 6 p.m. Eastern Time on the Prop Queen Pod. We've got Monday Night Football tonight to close out Week 12 of the NFL season. And then we got NBA as well. Mid-Major Matt going to join the show and talk some Monday Night Football. Jared Block from Trinity Analytics, per usual. These two joining us on Mondays. Jared going to give us NBA and Monday Night Football props for tonight. Very excited to talk this Monday Night Football game because we've got the San Francisco 49ers at home as 7.5 point favorites against the Carolina Panthers, who have been doing pretty well. And now with Baker Mayfield and that sprained AC joint, is the South open? Is Baker okay? They said they're not ruling him out yet for this coming week, but we will see. We will see. Joe Burrow is scheduled to start Thanksgiving, potentially, against the Baltimore Ravens. They say they're hoping he does. It's kind of what they're expecting. Covered the Bengals yesterday. It was my best bet. Bengals covering 6.5, 7.5 point spread up against the New England Patriots. The Bengals should have won that game, actually, but because they had so many turnovers, the Patriots took advantage. I'm curious the next few weeks for those Patriots because Drake May in the conversation for MVP, he's got a couple of really tough games against the Bills and the Ravens coming up. Also very curious what the Ravens are going to look like on Thursday because they looked like absolute garbage against the New York Jets. I know they ended up winning, and I know the Ravens ended up, I'm pretty sure, covering that spread. But the Ravens didn't look good. And I know that ever since the Ravens started the year off at 1-5, and now they're 6-5 since Lamar's been back, Lamar hasn't looked himself either. If Lamar looked like himself, they'd be winning games by a much larger margin. They ended up beating the Jets 23-10, so they did cover their large spread yesterday. But again, it didn't look as good as it felt. Those scores at the end of the game, I mean, the Ravens got lucky scoring with the Derrick Henry rushing touchdown on the 4th down. I am very skeptical of this Ravens team. I'm skeptical of Lamar. I'm skeptical of his injuries. The only thing that's going for the Ravens on Thursday, which I will be in attendance in Baltimore. So if anybody else is going to Baltimore for Thanksgiving on Thursday night, you let me know because I will be there with my family. And I'm very excited about it, except it's going to be cold and I hope the Ravens don't lose. But the only silver lining, Trey Hendrickson, the defensive end on the Bengals, is likely not playing. Oh, he's already out for the game. And T. Higgins, the Bengals wide receiver, also out for the game on Thursday. He got a little banged up. Did you see him hit the ground pretty hard? So those are two massive injuries. But you're going to get Jamar Chase back, who was suspended for spitting. And Joe Burrow likely back. But is he rusty? I don't know. Either way, it would have been cool with Joe Burrow or Joe Flacco. But, you guys are looking at. Oh, see, I'm looking at Purdy over 1.5 touchdowns. You might want to reconsider. I don't love Purdy tonight, which you might know from the newsletter, thepropqueen.com. I talked about how I don't love Brock Purdy tonight, especially in the red zone. But we'll get to it. I don't love fading him either, but I just had to give it out as a plus money play just because of the numbers and the way that the Panthers have been playing inside the red zone against quarterbacks. It's been pretty good. You guys are talking some NBA, which we're going to get Jared Block talking some NBA as well. It's amazing that the Chicago Bears, I was not expecting Caleb Williams to be let's see. The Bears right now, standings in the North, 8-3, Green Bay 7-3 with a tough game up against the Lions coming up on Thanksgiving. I can't believe the Bears are 8-3. The Eagles ending up blowing that game. I don't know if you guys follow Trent, Book It Trent, but did you guys see how he lost his parlay fugazi yesterday? I have to find you this tweet. I sent it to it was the most, and I'm friends with Trent. It was one of the most Trent losses that I've ever seen. And if you guys don't know who Book It Trent is, he's made himself pretty much the fade guy in all of sports. Let me find his. Oh my God, his surgical 6. You guys have to see. I can't believe he almost won this. He almost won his surgical 6. So obviously he takes 6 teams straight up on the money line and he bets a 6-team money line parlay, which is crazy. But this is how Trent lost. He had Patriots, Chiefs, Packers, Bears, Rams, Eagles. That just sucks, bro. I am so sorry, Trent. That just sucks. You had it too. You had like a 21-point lead for this parlay, and you lost. Like, when you've got fade guys and guys that just make a living off being faded, like Trent, it is so typical that your fade guy loses the way that the Eagles did yesterday. I mean, that was probably one of the best wins of Dak Prescott's career. Yet the Cowboys are still 5-5. Eagles, absolute melt. It's going to be a really fun week, a really fun Thanksgiving. Green Bay Packers, 2.5-point road dogs at the Detroit Lions, and the Lions almost lost to the New York Giants. Another giant loss. Another time that the New York Giants had a freaking lead and blew it. And the Lions end up winning, but they don't cover, which I was pissed. I thought the Lions for sure would have covered a 10.5-point spread solely because they had Jahmyr Gibbs, who did go off. He doubled his rushing yards prop. I gave out the Jahmyr Gibbs rushing yards prop on Thursday. That's how much I loved it. Jahmyr Gibbs went flying over that total. But how the hell does Jahmyr Gibbs not help the Lions cover against the Giants? The Giants' D-line looked great. They were applying a ton of pressure on Jared Goff. But the Giants still found a way to lose that game. So the Lions just edged out. So the lines for Thanksgiving, Lions 2.5-point home favorites over the Packers, total 49.5. Chiefs laying 3 at the Cowboys, total 51.5. Can the Cowboys come back? Like, after a win like that over your division foe, do you really like it? Or the Chiefs, do we trust them enough? Because I certainly don't trust the Chiefs. And I thought the Chiefs were going to lose that game to the Colts. They were losing 20-9. And then somehow Patrick Mahomes style fight back to go to OT and win on OT. But then, of course, it's the Ravens and the Bengals and the Ravens. The Ravens are laying a touchdown. Total 51.5. We've always said that game's going to be a high-scoring affair between two struggling defenses. Speaking of struggling defenses, let's bring in mid-major Matt, who said last week that his Eagles were the best defense in football and somehow coughed up a 21-point lead over their division rival Cowboys. How are you, Matt?
I don't think I said they were the best. I think I said one of the best. Can we re-rack the tape?
I might have to watch that over, but you were up there, and that melt was terrible to watch.
By the way, it wasn't the defense's fault. They had a ton of injuries, and
it's only injuries, but there were turnovers. There were 2 bad turnovers.
Yeah. Nobody should field a punt on the 1-yard line. Like, I still don't understand what that guy was doing. And the Dallas didn't score that drive either. They were on like the 10-yard line. And they didn't score. They went 4 and out.
Listen, the Eagles defense is good, but to cough up that lead against your division rival is bad news for those Eagles. Are you concerned at all going forward?
Of course I am. I mean, it's Philadelphia. We're concerned about everything. They were 8-2 and people were still concerned.
You guys are 7-point home favorites over the Bears next week.
A solid 8-3, but they're not a realistic 8-3. I think we beat them on Friday. I think listen, that 7-point line to me is ridiculous. I went instantly and took the Bears +7.
Yeah, it just seems really hefty. I know the Eagles are home and they play much better at home. 7 seems pretty hefty against an 8-3 team.
Yeah, and the Eagles' problems have been there all season. And the injury issues, we saw that Andrew Makuba, the second-round safety, is out for a while. He broke his ankle, which feels like it's a fractured ankle, excuse me. He's going to be out for a while with that. And, there's some other injuries that I don't know if a short week they'll be able to fix. So I think they win, but I think it feels like a 24-20 type of game more than a 31-10 type of game.
How about Saquon? Your running back hasn't looked as dominant as last season. How do you see them using Saquon the second half of the season?
We need to use Tank more. Tank is averaging like 9 yards a carry, which is insane. And he's only getting like 1 or 2 carries a game. I don't know what it is, but like he needs to get the ball more. Now, I'm not saying he needs to be the number 1 guy, but I think he needs to get 6 or 7 carries a game. They used to give the ball to Kenny Gainwell, and like that was a waste a lot of times, although he's playing better in Pittsburgh. But like I think Saquon, it just doesn't have the same energy as last year. He doesn't have the same revenge as he had last year. Last year, he was on hate and revenge and everything, and you can't manufacture that once again. So I think the motivation is just not there. He got paid more in this offseason. So like he's still a very good player. I'm still happy he's an Eagle, but like I just don't think the same motivation's there after last year.
The Rams have now surpassed the Eagles as the favorites to win the Super Bowl on FanDuel at plus 430, Eagles plus 650. Chiefs are sitting there at 10-1. How much are you buying the Rams hype?
I took the Rams before the season. I have audio evidence on my radio show here in Richmond that I said I like the Rams this year. If obviously I want the Eagles to win, but like I said, if the Eagles can't win, I think it's the Rams. I forget what I got the number at in the preseason, but like I am a believer in the Rams. I think that this is it. Now look, if Stafford gets hurt, I don't think Jimmy G is winning the championship for them, but like this team has everything you need. A great defense that can play inside and outside, a great offense, two great wide receivers, a very good running back, and a good offensive line. Like, I don't think the Rams should worry about anybody. And I think if they stay healthy, they are the best team in football by far.
Yeah, the Rams have looked really good. And thank you, Matt Stafford, for cashing over passing yards for my Prize Picks lineup yesterday. I'm not buying the Chiefs. I know they came back yesterday, Mahomes style. I have absolutely zero faith in the Kansas City Chiefs this year. They have looked very bad, and somebody who is just a hair better is going to own them. And there are teams better than the Chiefs. I am shocked that they are the favorites right now out of the AFC.
Well, I keep thinking your team is going to wake up at some point, but struggling with the Jets. Like, I can't believe I had to sweat my survivor pick for like a half. I figured that was going to be an easy one. We move on. We still did move on. And this week, this is a tough week right now because I do not want to lose on my Eagles because I still have the Eagles left, but there is not a lot of options. There is a chance.
And you have to, I'm assuming in your survivor, you have to pick
New Orleans off their bye week.
I'm assuming Thanksgiving, you have to pick a Thanksgiving and a Sunday, or do you just have to pick one?
We just have just the weekend. That's it. Well, or I mean, including Thanksgiving. We can include Thanksgiving, but it's the whole week. It's not the Vegas one.
Yeah. When I was in Circa, you had to pick Thanksgiving and Sunday. That sucked. I made it to Thanksgiving a couple of years ago with my dad. We won Thanksgiving and we lost Sunday.
Well, that's where you'd have to plan for Thanksgiving. You would have to leave the Lions or the Cowboys or whoever for Thanksgiving and just not take them the rest of the year because there's only 3 games.
Yeah, it's really hard to do when you have to pick Thanksgiving. And then usually they leave us with a really shitty slate on Sunday, which is pretty much what we're going to have this coming week. But first, we have Monday Night Football. Week 12 closes out tonight. We've got the San Francisco 49ers laying 7 against the Carolina Panthers. 7-point spread is tough for prime time. How much do you consider the spread and handicapping the game that way?
I mean, I think it's all how much you think the Panthers are for real. I mean, their division's not very good. Bryce Young, I don't watch a lot of Bryce Young. I don't go out of my way to watch him a lot, but like, it's how much do you believe in him as a quarterback? It'll be funny watching the Mannings talk about him tonight on the Manning cast because, they're used to talking about the really good quarterbacks and now Bryce Young is there. And so,
do you watch the Manning cast instead of the real game?
San Francisco's offense doesn't scare me a ton. It's McCaffrey. But like, it's how much you believe in Carolina as to whether or not you want to take the 7.
Do you watch the Manning cast instead of the game?
I am a loyal Manning cast person, although I'm very disappointed. They have like 4 guests tonight, which I believe the Manning cast should have like 1 guest, and that's it.
What do you love about the Manning cast?
Just geniuses. I mean, the stuff they come up with, the stuff they talk about is just so, what is it? It's like 401, football 401. It's just so upper level and they're funny. They've got good personalities. I think the Manning cast is great.
It's funny. I watched it at the beginning and then I stopped watching it because I just am like a play-by-play person and like to just listen to the game cast. But you're right. They are very entertaining. You are too, especially when we catch some winners. Who are you going to be looking at for props tonight?
So once again, I think there's a common thread for me in a lot of the plays and the players I back in the NFL, and I'm going to Jalen Coker, the slot receiver for Carolina. You figure Carolina is probably going to throw the ball a lot tonight, and you look at this guy and you see, he was working his way off the injury. He's only played in a couple games so far this year, but if you look at the last couple games, 3 receptions and 4 receptions, and his snap count is really good. He played 68% of the snaps last week, 75 in 2 weeks ago. So he's a guy that's out there a lot. And if you look at San Francisco, they are very vulnerable in the slot right now. And so you're getting a very manageable 2.5 receptions for him. The yardage is slightly different depending upon the book. Now, granted, it's a yard or 2 is the difference. FanDuel has the lowest. Caesars has the highest. They're all about the same, though. But I just think that Jalen Coker is busy tonight. I think he gets 3 receptions for 40 yards because I think you can beat San Francisco in the slot.
How about everyone who's going to be looking at, listen, Jalen Coker is pretty much the number 3 guy when it comes to Tito McMillan or Xavier Leggett. How come Jalen Coker is the one that's going to have the big game over those two?
Well, I think it's mostly because the 49ers slot defense is not great. I think that every defense is either, vulnerable to the outside or to the inside. And it feels like, now look, you could go tight end here, but if you look, I mean, like Jatavian Sanders is okay, but he's only playing 50% of the snaps. I mean, Tommy Tremble's playing a whole lot more than he is. Mitchell Evans is even in there a little bit. So there's really not one tight end you can look at. But like, I think that Bryce is developing some nice chemistry with Jalen, and Xavier has had injuries, I believe, this week. It looks like it's going to play tonight, but like, the practice during the week, you got to build some chemistry and find some plays and stuff. So, and I like the 2.5. I think the 2.5 is very manageable. He could get 3 short catches and we win that bet rather easily. So that's why I like the over 2.5. I took that last night, and then the yardage, 27.5, I think is very reasonable for him.
Very reasonable against a banged-up 49ers defense. When it comes to special teams, you love those kicker props. Kicker whisperer, which kickers should we look at tonight, if any?
So this one's tough. They're both about the same in the middle. The Carolina Panthers are allowing 1.9 field goal attempts per game, 2 on the road, 2.2 on the road. San Francisco's allowing 2 field goal attempts per game, 1.8 on the road. So like you just mentioned how Carolina's defense has been better in the red zone. That would make me lean more towards the San Francisco side of things. But either side, like they both have good numbers in terms of preventing field goals. The way Carolina, I don't think I want to get involved with, because if we get the bad Bryce Young tonight, they may not even get close to the red zone. So if I was to take anything of that variety, it would probably be the over 1.5 for the 49ers, who are going to probably be in the red zone a little bit more and have a pretty good kicker themselves.
Yeah, when you're a 7-point favorite at this rate, Carolina is a tough team to buy into. As much as they have been in games and playing much better, over there in the South, Carolina 6-5, tied with the Bucks. I mean, now with Baker Mayfield being banged up, maybe there's a little more incentive thinking, wow, like we've really got a shot at this. But again, when it's a 7-point spread, and I know they say east to west isn't as bad as west to east. So Carolina going out there to San Francisco, it always makes me think this is the same way with your Bears and Eagles coming up next week. It's very fishy for the way the Panthers have been playing.
Yeah. And plus, it's very funny. I always like to talk about how this number is the perfect tease number. If you wanted to start your teasing for next week, like you tease us down to 1 and you essentially get the 49ers to win. You just have to find other things to tease with. And, we have the full college football slate coming up this weekend, and we have a full NFL slate. So like, I always find it funny when the market is okay with leaving numbers at a teasable number, because they know, Vegas has to know that a lot of people are going to take the 49ers down to 1, and then they're just going to find one other thing or 2 other things and do a nice 6-point teaser. But they seem to be okay with that because they're not moving off that number.
Lots of injuries, especially for San Francisco. Very curious to see if the book is very spot on with this one or if they're very off and just underestimating this Carolina team. College football, it's coming down to the wire. I mean, we've got teams that are fighting for bowls. We've got teams already bowl eligible. We've got teams fighting for playoff spots. What can we expect these last few games of college football regular season?
So I think tomorrow will be very important when the college football playoff rankings come out. I think tomorrow will tell us who's going to be playing for style points and who's going to be playing to keep themselves in the tournament. I think, we saw, unfortunately, our alma mater, they lost by 1 million in Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame's going to have to do it again. I think Notre Dame is playing at Stanford. I think that Notre Dame's going to score a lot of points. So I'll probably look at their team total over once again. They hit their team total over against us in the second quarter. I was very disappointed. I didn't win that game in the first quarter, but all right, we got a winner in the second quarter. But like, I also think the Heisman's gonna be interesting because my guy Mendoza, he's still the odds-on favorite, but there's a lot of guys behind him. There's Notre Dame's running back, which I think if you want to take Notre Dame's running back to do something, I wish I could do this here. I would take his over on his rushing yards. Notre Dame seems like the type of team that's going to try really hard to make him get him to New York and give him a shot at the Heisman. So I would look at his over. I think Diego Pavia, if you think Vanderbilt's going to beat Tennessee, which they certainly could, you could potentially look at taking Pavia to win the Heisman because I think he has a shot. A lot of people like him. His character, he's a guy that people have gotten behind in college football. And if they go and they beat Rocky Top in their final regular season game, I think there's a chance he at least gets to New York and maybe you can hedge out of that bet or take an offer if the sports book offers you something. But I would look at Pavia stuff. And then obviously I'm hoping, and I know Kurt Signetti watches this show because, let's be honest, what college football coach is not watching this show? I'm hoping that Kurt Signetti unleashes Mendoza this weekend. I need 5 touchdowns. I need him to look like the best player in college football. For those who are not familiar, who are new to the show, we have a 60-1 ticket on Mendoza to win the Heisman. We gave it out on this show probably in August. So look, he's going to go to New York, but he needs to play well these last couple games. But to hold a ticket like that with a really good shot to win, I need him to unleash him against Purdue, the rival, this weekend.
You sound like me when I had the 100-1 ticket on Devin White to win Super Bowl MVP, and he lost it because Tom Brady was his quarterback, but I'm not still bitter. I'm trying to get the updated lines, which are hard to get in New York because we can't vote for MVP. But what is the update? MVP. What is the update for Heisman?
So Mendoza's still the favorite. He was a minus money last week. He didn't play this weekend because he had a bye week, which I think hurt him a little bit, but he's still the favorite. Last I saw, because I can't bet it in the state of Virginia, I think it's plus 110. I think Jeremiah
on MGM Mendoza on MGM Mendoza minus 105, Jeremiah Love plus 375, Julian Sayin is 4-1.
Yeah, so here's the thing about Sayin. Now, I have to get clarification. I think the Heisman voting continues through the conference championship. Here's the thing. If you think Sayin's going to play well against Michigan, and if you think they're going to win the championship and beat Indiana, Sayin might be the guy to look at in the Heisman. Like, this is where we kind of talk about
clearly value
other sports with award winners. Like, if you think a team's going to do really well, bet on this player. Or if you think this player is going to do really well, bet on the team. If you think Ohio State's going to beat Michigan and probably beat Indiana in the championship game, taking Sayin to win the Heisman is probably a good bet because he'd be the reason why. If you think that Notre Dame is going to do a lot against Stanford, then I would look at Jeremiah Love's rushing numbers or his Heisman number. If you think Diego Pavia is going to go and beat Rocky Top, then I would look at him potentially as well. So like, this is where you can get a little creative with regards to the Heisman. There's probably no value taking Mendoza right now because he's a minus number. If you think he's going to get the Heisman, maybe you look at him over his passing touchdowns or over his rushing touchdowns or over his touchdowns total, because he'll have to have a really good game against Purdue and most likely against Ohio State in order to win the Heisman.
I love, I don't know. I'm debating. Okay, I'll just talk about this. Can we get love for Quinnipiac being Pitt as 12-point dogs?
That's good. Yeah, college basketball. Yeah, I think there's some. This is an interesting week because this week is a lot of tournaments, and there's a lot of tournaments in the middle of nowhere in front of 7 fans, and so you have to really go off of talent and veteran teams because there's going to be games at 11 a.m. played in gyms with 12 people there, and you're going to have to find the motivation, and you're going to have to, there's also teams playing in Hawaii right now, and some people are going to treat that trip to Hawaii like a vacation, and so I really feel like you have to pay attention to the more veteran teams who have done this stuff before and the better teams, because I think the better teams are going to win. By the way, I'll say this. I would look potentially at the team total under for our alma mater tonight. Houston plays really good defense. Our best player is not playing tonight. If Syracuse gets to 50, I'll be shocked.
It's funny. Jeremy Grant over 20.5 points. Haha, J-Main. Okay, so I was just thinking of cues. College basketball, I know you're mentioning some of these early things, but we've got a couple of weeks now under our belt through the college basketball slate. You talk about those tournaments. There are players that definitely get sidetracked. I've been part of some of those tournaments where I've been down to the Bahamas and I watched some players gambling, and we all, after we saw them in the casino till 2 a.m, decided to bet the other side the next day, and we covered handily. But aside for that, what trends have you noticed? What teams have you been watching? What teams do you think are fadeable as we've gotten through the first couple of weeks?
Well, I think the important thing for the next couple weeks or so is paying attention to when campuses have their holiday and when students are gone. Because when the students are gone, the home field advantage is gone. And I think sometimes we're going to get some underdogs, some road underdogs at a very good price because the students aren't there. So you really want to pay attention to that. And obviously, there's some schools that have longer breaks. There's some schools that have shorter breaks. So that's where you almost have to, unfortunately, Google like your favorite school
You
and
do
see when
that?
the break starts, because that makes a huge difference sometimes. With regards to teams I like, obviously I love my Zags. Gonzaga has been tremendous so far this season. They're 5-0. They're playing Alabama tonight. If they can keep playing defense and slow down a very potent Alabama, that will be fascinating tonight. The Players Era Tournament in Las Vegas is some of the best basketball we will see this week. I also think Arizona. I mean, Arizona is an obvious team here, but Arizona has proven themselves already several times. They've actually played a bunch of tough games this season. They're number 6 in the Ken Pomeroy rankings, which is interesting. I don't know if there are 6 teams better than them right now, or 5 teams better than them right now. Of course, Duke's number 1, but Duke really hasn't challenged itself too much this season so far. They'll get a whole lot tougher with regards to their schedule, but this is the time of year where you want to pay attention to the locations of these games and when the students are on break, because that gives the road underdogs a lot better chance to cover or win, because these atmospheres are just not going to be as tough.
I'll leave you with this. I saw a really good tweet today. It said Major League Baseball is meant to be watched in person. The NFL is meant to be watched on your couch, and college basketball is meant to be watched in your work cubicle. I thought that was great.
Oh, I was watching college basketball today. During my radio show, college basketball was on. So, like, I 100% agree with that. And that's why this week, Feast Week, is so good, because there's 11 a.m. games all the way up till like 12 o'clock at night. So, yeah, college basketball is meant to be an awesome distraction from everyday work, especially on a week like this where, you know, nobody's working Thursday or Friday, most likely.
The best part of March Madness is that and knowing winter is almost over. But unfortunately, we are far from that because winter is just beginning. Mid-Major Matt, thank you as always for coming on a Monday. Good luck to those bets tonight. I will see you on Friday.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Jared Block going to join the show in just a little bit. I knew it. I was like, I'm not doing propaganda yet. This just came up. Update on Baker Mayfield, the quarterback of the Bucks. He went down Sunday with a sprained left shoulder, has a low-grade sprain. They said good news with an eye toward next week. In the words of one source, according to Ian Rappaport, that's as good as anyone could hope for. So it looks like Baker Mayfield has a chance to play. Just looking at that game on Sunday. Let me see if the line's up. I don't see anything up yet there it is. They're home against the Cards, laying 3, total 44.5. So if you think Baker plays, I'm sure that line moves to like 3.5, but I'm sure that 3 is caked into Baker potentially being out there. Let's bring in someone who we know is always on. He is always here. AC sprain or not, it wouldn't matter because he plays every week. It's Jared Block from Trinity Analytics here every Monday with us talking NBA props, Monday Night Football. How was your Sunday?
Sunday was good. Had a really, really good, strong DraftKings DFS day. Cardinals come through again late, which was awesome for that. Had Rams -7 last night, so sorry to Baker, but I felt really good about that one yesterday. So coming in hot. It's a really, really confusing NBA slate. But this NFL game is actually pretty awesome. Let's hope it actually holds up.
So you do DFS slates still, which I feel like I never hear anyone does anymore, but I'm sure people do. But I was obsessed and addicted to them all through the time I was able to start doing them. But you do DFS still. You probably have season-long fantasy. You do NBA props. I saw you posting them yesterday. You do NFL. You've got sides. You've got totals. You've got props. I mean, what the hell? How do you do all of this?
I don't know. That's a great question.
Do you just sit on a Sunday like in a dark room and crunching numbers?
That's actually not that far off.
What time do you wake up on a Sunday?
On a Sunday, 7:30, 8 o'clock.
Okay, I'm assuming most of your work's done, but like I'm just It's hard to get everything done in a Sunday. I sometimes lose track of my survivors and my fantasies, but you're doing DFS still. That's crazy.
Yeah, well, at least it's so for what it's worth. I don't even bother with NBA DFS anymore. That sport has gone to bad places with injury reports. But yeah, NFL DFS is still fun for me. I really like tonight's slate. I liked yesterday, last week. So, and Thanksgiving's coming up. That's like the most fun DFS slate of the year.
It is, especially because we have so many great games. We'll talk NFL a little bit. We just talked a lot of Monday Night Football, so I want to get some NBA action in. You mentioned it's a weird, messy, confusing slate tonight. Why?
For NBA purposes, sorry, just get my pages up.
Yeah, NBA.
Lots of things going on, and I've coined the phrase "chaos slate" anytime we got 10 games for NBA because it's just like I don't even know.
But you could find so much value in it.
Yeah, there's a ton of stuff to look at. There are two major teams tonight with several guys out. That's the Cleveland Cavs and the Portland Trailblazers. They're sitting multiple starters. You got KD missing for personal days now, the next two games. You have teams resting for cup games. We have cup games on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday this week. And Tyler Hero's returning to Miami. So there's a lot to look at, a lot to discuss. I tend to stay away from a lot of those team situations unless we've seen them before. So games like the Miami one, I think I'm kind of interested in just because of the high game total in the fast pace. But like Houston, I might just opt to stay away from that with how Durant is like I want to see a sample because he hasn't missed a game yet. So I want to see what we got from that. But yeah, there's just a ton of stuff going on. But I feel really good about a good 5 to 7 things here.
Yeah, and let's talk about those. So you've got some NBA props starting with the Curry over threes. How come?
Yeah, you get a pace up spot for Golden State. I think that this spot specifically is one of those where when the best 3-point shooter in the NBA lines up with one of the worst 3-point defending teams, you kind of just don't overthink that. And you also, while he hasn't had the success against Utah necessarily, because you have to remember a lot of the games in Utah are usually second legs of back-to-backs or first legs Denver to Utah, just of how the country is positioned. So those games are usually really tough, but this game's at home. And I do think that Curry's actually been on a heater as of recently. So you don't overthink that spot. You just place threes and call it a day.
You never get worried that it's too many?
Sometimes, but he still manages to like have, I think the way that I produced it on the pod for our company today was that I said like, this just feels like Steph he hits his 8th 3 at the end of the third quarter. Everybody goes wild. He sits the rest of the game kind of situation.
I love that Joseph Rodriguez mentioned Queen because, I mean, again, I hope you're not just doing it because it's the Prop Queen pod. I love Derek Queen. I happen to love players with the last name Queen. I end up making money off of them. It must just be meant to be. I just made money off Derek Queen last week because I loved that he was in without Zion, and then it just becomes a very if he plays, if he doesn't play Zion, like how do we predict that? And when I mentioned the other Queen, I meant Patrick Queen, who used to be a Raven. But anyway, Derek Queen in the NBA, you're going over PRA again. What's the deal with Zion? Do you care about Zion when he's in or out when it comes to Queen?
Not anymore. I think earlier on, sure, but he's earned his playing time, and we've seen him take that next step now, and he's scored 20-plus points in 3 straight games. He has a total of 70 actual points in the last 3 games combined, and this is a spot where, I think I'm going to say this every time the Bulls play on a Monday on this show, you attack them with opposing centers. And with that said, we know that Nikola Vucevic is dealing with an injury. He might not even play, and if that's the case, we got Jalen Smith in there full time, and that is a matchup I think that Queen can do very, very well against. Even if that doesn't happen, the restricted area is the worst zone for the Bulls, and they're giving up 4 more attempts per game than any other team in the league from that zone. It's like 34 field goal attempts inside the restricted area. So you got Derek Queen can do really well here. Zion can do well here, but you mainly just want centers against the Bulls, and I think that he presents tremendous value. I still don't think that so the line that I sent you was 30.5 on Prize Picks. I don't think that that's high enough yet for him.
Ooh, yeah. I mean, I love these kinds of players. Took advantage of Alperen Şengün his second year in the league because the numbers couldn't catch up fast enough. Take advantage of Derek Queen while you can. Now, a player that's been around, Dennis Schroeder. He's with the Kings. You're going over rebounds plus assists. How come?
Yeah, this was actually one of my favorite trends. I post trend lists on X every single day for NBA. And this was one of the ones that stood out to me. He has recorded 8 rebounds plus assists in all 6 games that Sabonis has not played. Sabonis is out long term now, and the Kings just need peripheral help when Sabonis is out, and Schroeder provides that for them. Westbrook does too, but Schroeder's been more consistent.
Yeah, I love that you provide that. You guys can check him out at Jared R. Block. He has a huge list on his X page, NBA player prop trends for today, and it's going like a bunch of different teams and how players do with or without. And again, you can always check that out at props.cash. Use promo code PropQueen to sign up, and you could get 50% off your first month. You could see how every player does on every team without certain players.
That's right.
If they're in or out. It's amazing, and it's super helpful. You mentioned to me, I said, hey, Jared, what do you want to talk about today? What do you like today in the association? You said to me, I'm going to get verbatim exactly what you said to me. Cunningham during explosion games. Of course, the Pistons getting the Pacers, who not only can't score, they always allow everyone else to score. Their defense has been abysmal. They're bad in the paint. I'm assuming that's why you like Cade and Jalen Duren overs?
It is, and it's also one of the, Vegas has their algorithms and their sharpness, and we can sometimes question that. I am currently questioning. This is my biggest head scratcher of the day. I don't understand why the Pistons are only 10-point favorites in this spot on the road. Maybe it's because they're on the road, but they're arguably now one of the healthiest teams in the NBA. We got Ivy and LeVert coming back. Tobias and Oscar Thompson are also back, and so they're like almost at full strength. And I think that when you look at this team, you're still getting extremely strong usage with those guys back from Cade and from Duren. And mainly, this is just an insanely good profiling spot on paper. You get a pace-up spot for Detroit. Indiana's running at a top 10 speed. And the Pacers, we know, rank 27th in defensive efficiency right now. This is a spot where, you're not going to have a lot of three-point success. So I'm not, super thrilled on the three-point shooters on this team. Where Indiana struggles the most is in the paint and in the restricted area. And those are zones where Duren ranks second in the restricted area in the NBA per game. You got Cade as a top 10 mid-range guy and a top 10 paint guy. And it's just insane good stuff. Like too many green flags are lining up here for me. Jalen Duren on top of that is just going to absolutely demolish. He had over 45 PRA the last time that they faced the Pacers a couple weeks ago. It was actually 2 weeks ago today, and had one of his best fantasy days on the year. So I just don't really get it. If they only cover by 9, I will say whatever about this for Vegas reasons, but this is a team that can score 130 points tonight.
Whew, that'd be crazy. When you're talking overs, though, you talking points for both? You talking assists for Cade? Where are you looking?
Yeah, Cade definitely a points assist candidate. He's dished out 10 assists in 8 of his last 9 games. So I don't want the points assists market there. And it does help when all these guys are coming back and healthy that you can rely on starting unit players to convert shots rather than bench pieces. In terms of the Duren stuff, I'm cool with PRA. I'm also cool with just points, rebounds. They are allowing the 5th most rebounds to centers over the last 7 games. So it's just a really, really good spot all the way around. Again, I'm very curious as to why they're only 10-point favorites. It feels more like a 13 plus.
I'm very curious now. I'm hoping I'll be watching actually during Monday Night Football to see why exactly the book's booking it that way. Jay Main said, what do you think about Jaime Jackie's junior points?
Yeah, let me bring up the Miami game. This one's really intriguing because I want to be early. Well, you can't really be early to Jaquez necessarily, but looking at what Miami is going to do with Hero back, and now we know that Norm Powell's out for an extended period of time. Wiggins also not playing today. So that brings up a lot of question marks. At the top of when I just came in here, I led by saying I'd like to stay away from these types of situations, but the spot is good enough. And I would say it's actually really good. I do expect Jaquez to start, and if he doesn't, he should at least close in halves. So the role here is really strong. And more importantly, you're not really shooting a lot of threes against Dallas right now. They're running at a fairly similar pace of play to Miami's really fast play style. And they're just allowing a ton of points in the paint as well as the restricted area. And Jaquez ranks 13th in the restricted area per game in the NBA. So you take those notes and you kind of put them all together. and the spot for Jaquez looks really good.
Then Jamie also brought up the Ben Mathurin 20-plus points. I know that Mathurin has been somebody who last week when I was capping the NBA only had about 3 games under his belt. It was Siakam points if Mathurin's out. It's Siakam rebounds if Mathurin's in. Mathurin's been a huge offensive production role for them because Siakam's aside like the only one on Indiana who could shoot the ball. So where are you going there for Ben Mathurin?
I think this is one where I'd be willing to, to the Detroit spread point. It's still 10 points. Still think that they can, these starters can do well enough. I'm only looking at 2 of them, right? Mathurin and Siakam are the only guys you can really trust night in, night out there. It's a small sample still, but he's cleared 30 PRA in all 5 games he's played this year and 3 straight since he returned from that injury. So it's a really small sample still, but he's at least got all these games with Siakam and Nembhard under his belt. And, Neesmith's not going to be back for a while. So I do think that, for the time being, Mathurin should have the team's highest usage rate or the second one with Siakam here.
Let's turn to Monday Night Football. You've got a bunch of props that you like as well, so we'll talk about some of those. Starting with McMillan over his receiving yards. It's been tough for me to figure out which wide receiver I want to rely on in Carolina tonight because the 49ers have really struggled. They've allowed the 4th most receiving yards to wide receivers this season. Yet the Panthers have 3 different players that Bryce Young could turn to. How come you believe it's McMillan?
Yeah, McMillan's been hard to cap in general. He's had enormous eruption spots, and like a good example of what this matchup was or is tonight was when they faced off against Dallas about a month ago. Carolina won that game. Tet went off and had 2 touchdowns in that game, but he fell short from a receiving yards perspective. So like we know the targets are going to be there. They're going to be close to double digits. We know that the matchup is really, really good. We know that they're probably going to be projected to pass a lot and probably play from behind in this game. And it's a really important spot. And I don't know if this has been brought up on the show today. And I don't look at this much because we deal with player props, we deal with DFS stuff. So records are not like huge pieces of conversation. But the Panthers can make a playoff run here if they continue to keep winning. Like it's actually
they're both 6-5 tied with Tampa Bay.
Right. And earlier we did Trinity Analytics did the Week 12 show on Thursday last week. We talked about this from a Jaguars perspective too, and they're about to make a playoff run. So like looking at these teams that have this 6-7 win mark that aren't usually here at this time of the year is intriguing. And I do think that Carolina has an outside shot. I wasn't as confident about them as I was with some other teams that were in these spots, but I do think that when looking at Tet, you're still looking at receiving yards. The volume's going to be there. I think that Bryce Young's going to have to throw 35 plus times today. The thing here is that I think you can go with one of, you can go with both of Tet, or you can go with Jalen Coker. You want slot receivers. You can play any receiver against the Niners right now, but mainly you want slot receivers because San Francisco's giving up the most receiving yards to the slot in the NFL in the last month. So there's been a clear drop off from that angle. And I don't think it's something they can correct short term. So both McMillan and Coker are on my list today.
Bryce Young over his fantasy points. I love the of this market. You could get it at Prize Picks, put it in your Prize Picks lineup. How come Bryce Young over his fantasy points?
Yeah, every quarterback over the last 4 games that San Francisco has played has allowed a quarterback to go 20 plus fantasy points, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that for rough estimations, that's usually around 250 and 2. And if you add anything on the ground, that's a bonus. We don't expect Bryce Young to run. So I do think that, again, 35 plus pass attempts is in play here. And I think that like a good 275 is like not inconceivable. It's a pretty good chance that he hits that. I'm actually looking to see because the number I gave you is 15.7 or something like that. On Prize Picks, it is. Where is it? Give me one moment. Oh, it's not even up here. That's unfortunate.
Oh, no.
We got to keep an eye on this. But 208.5 passing yards is just as good. Oh, sorry. Here it is. This is really low, Ariel. It's 13.5 for Bryce Young.
I'll tell you what scares me a little bit because actually the only Bryce Young prop I did like was his overpass attempts. 32.5 is the number I saw. Except I was looking at his numbers the last couple of years against bottom 10 pass Ds. and he's at about 31 pass attempts a game. And he actually does tend to scramble, especially if there's a team like the Niners who are so banged up. Their pass rush is so banged up. They've actually been allowing quarterbacks to run the football a bit. And I know that shouldn't necessarily impact him enough to the Josh Allen standpoint, but 15 does feel very low for Bryce Young. I'm just worried, like, why is he not throwing the football as much on the road in prime time?
I can't give you an exact answer to that because I only have this year's sample size, but the Panthers, at least under this system, do not want Young throwing a lot. And then what we saw last week was more of like
He threw
we
a lot
kind of
last
have to.
week.
Yeah. And so like they have the third lowest pass rate over expectation, which means that in situations where you would expect teams to pass, they're the third lowest percentage in doing that. So I think that's like a correction of like we don't want Bryce to throw a bunch, though we might have to. And I feel like that's the we might have to part might have to come up today.
Well, something I did really like and couldn't figure out how to bet because it is a low sample size, small sample size. Rico Dowdle. He is up against this Niners team that is struggling against pass catching backs. Yet between Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard, it's hard to really know what the backfield looks like in Carolina because Hubbard was hurt and then Dowdle did great, but then Hubbard came back. So the numbers are just very inconsistent. How come you decided Dowdle over his receptions and not receiving yards?
Yeah, I'm a bit worried on how far these yards after the catch actually go. And they're not, like you said, they're not really using the running backs in the passing game that much, though I do think that they've shown
it's a great game to do it. That's what annoys me.
It's a really good game. So like if we see it, the team's got to see it. And I think
Nope. That's why they'll get murdered tonight because they didn't see it. And guess what? If they saw it, they probably wouldn't have lost.
Yeah, I know. So like that's my logic, I guess. But I think that you can see the recent upping in targets over the last month for Dowdle. He had 7 last week. I'm not expecting that today, but I think that if he can get a good 3 to 5, that he can convert those really easily. And we've seen opponents just been destroyed by San Francisco through the air underneath. Has a lot to do with the guys that they're missing on defense. They've allowed the third most targets and third most receptions on the year to running backs. I think that if you're, you can't, it's not like Chuba Hubbard is like the pass catching back. It's just Dowdle has like 80% of the work. So you kind of just have to hope that goes that way.
I love that Jared and I both love using props.cash because I don't just tout and promote props.cash all the time because I'm paid by them. It's actually not at all. I'm paid by them because I love their site so much that I ask them to let me work with them because I'm obsessed with them. And the reason I'm obsessed with them is because the next prop that I know Jared probably saw what I saw, and I'm going a different route because I saw something a little bit different. But this is what I'm assuming Jared saw, which is George Kittle in prime time at home has been absolutely crushing it. His receiving yards prop, Jared had 55.5. Props.cash even had 57.5. Kittle tonight, I mean, the trends are trending.
Yep, it certainly is. And I think that trends are trends, and then you kind of just have to, reinforce the way that you want to play these things with actual, further data, like secondary data, third data. So I do think that this is a really good trend in general. And on top of that, you feel really good about the fact that he scored 3 times in the last 2 games. You factor in that Ricky Pearsall's back as a guy that can stretch the field a little bit more, and you could see that Kittle could have some wide open stuff in the middle of the field. He's gotten 4+ receptions for 40+ yards in all 4 games since returning from injury. Has Kittle. Carolina's defense has been beaten for the 9th most receiving yards to the position this year. It's a really good spot all the way around. You add the motivation factor. You add the fact that, and we haven't brought this up because I didn't want to make it like everybody in the world's talking about the Christian McCaffrey versus Carolina spot. So I think that market's pretty full at the moment, and not like you can just play the over fantasy or like over receiving rushing and call it a day. But I do think that Kittle is the main beneficiary when Carolina is going to be really, really focused on stopping CMC, which they won't be able to, but there's going to be a lot of stuff open for Kittle there.
Just a question from the group because I keep seeing San Francisco Niner posting this in the chat. Jawan Jennings tonight. Thoughts on Jawan?
I think he's solid. It's one of the more. It's like probably the third or fourth guy that I'd look at from that team. But with that said, like we didn't see Kendrick Bourne targeted in last week's game when they put up 30+ points. We saw Ricky Pearsall be pretty underwhelming. Feels like it's the pecking order of CMC, Kittle, Jennings for right now. And while I think we're going to see Pearsall come back and he'll be just fine, but Juwan, I think you want like something like if you're playing him from like a sports betting standpoint, I think you're wanting to get him in like an alt line parlay situation. He's done really well in like the 4 to 5 receptions range, 30+ yards and 5 straight. It's kind of where I'd stop. I'm not really super interested. Carolina has been not as good they've been not as good recently against wide receivers, but over the course of the year, it's been a position that they've done pretty well against, mainly because teams can just run all over them.
Jared Black, thank you as always for hopping on the show here on a Monday. We appreciate you and your insights, especially because you are doing great in the NBA. Tell everyone where they can find you and what shows you've got going on outside of being here every Monday at 5:30.
Yep, I'm mainly on X at Jared R. Block. We are currently trying to expand Trinity Analytics to all the streaming platforms, so we'll have podcasts built in there. But for right now, you can check it out on my handle as well as the Trinity Analytic on X. And TrinityAnalytics.com. We're releasing our Black Friday specials tomorrow.
Hell yeah. Black Friday, everybody. Make sure to take advantage of the deals. Thank you so much, as always, Jared. We'll see you next week.
Appreciate it.
Now we've got propaganda. It is our most bet on props of the day in Monday Night Football, according to BetMGM. So let's get to propaganda. Here's the most bet on props according to BetMGM's John Ewing. 99% of money is on these props. Titaroa McMillan over receiving yards. Everyone thinks he's going off tonight. Christian McCaffrey under rush attempts. Interesting. People trying to go contrarian here. Brian Robinson over his rushing yards. McCaffrey over receiving yards. I do feel that number is a little high. Bryce Young over completions. Purdy over rushing yards. And Bryce Young over pass attempts. See, I knew that I wasn't going to like that Bryce Young over pass attempts. It's just too high. Brock Purdy over rushing yards, intriguing because Carolina, actually, no, it wasn't about that. It was actually the other side. The Niners have been allowing, let's see, Carolina third least rushing yards allowed to quarterbacks. Third least. So Purdy going over, I don't know. Carolina's not allowing quarterbacks to move much. They're allowing 10 yards a game to quarterbacks, but third least in the league. If I don't like Bryce Young over pass attempts, I certainly do not like Bryce Young over completions. In fact, I like under on completion props and over on pass attempt props because I just want the intent to be there to throw, as opposed to with completions relying on wide receivers and tight ends. So I would say under on not for Bryce Young. I just mean in general. I don't like really betting over on completions prop too often unless your name is Patrick Mahomes, because we cashed that yesterday. But unless you are a proven quarterback who I can really trust, Bryce Young's not one of those guys. So for someone like Bryce Young, I only would go under on completions and over on pass attempts. But I'm probably not betting either of those. What I am going to be betting tonight, actually, let me tweet it out. Prop Queen Edges of the Day. Queen Edges of the Day in Monday Night Football on now. Here's what I'm betting tonight. Not all of them, but okay, these are the Prop Queen edges. My best bets will be coming up in rail locks. But Brock Purdy under passing touchdowns. So you're going to say, that sounds crazy. I know Mark says that he likes Brock Purdy to go over his touchdowns. I'm not saying this is a best bet, but I'm going to tell you why the under has some value at plus 152. If you look at Brock Purdy's recent home primetime games, let me find the props.cash. Did I save it? There it is. Brock Purdy's home primetime games. Not a lot of green there. Doesn't throw many. On top of that, 64% of the quarterbacks to face the Panthers went under their passing touchdown prop. Not only do the Panthers struggle more in the red zone against running backs, it's a McCaffrey revenge game. So if they're inside the 10, the Niners probably run the football. Give it to McCaffrey. Let him score. I just don't love the numbers to back and over on the passing touchdowns for Purdy. So I guess that's the way I'd say it. I'm not necessarily going to bet this under, even though there is value around plus 150, but I am not going to be betting an over on the passing touchdowns for Brock Purdy. Christian McCaffrey, the way I would play him, not in a public market, over his longest reception. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but Christian McCaffrey, it's been 3 years, bro, since you've seen the Panthers. And I don't think that he necessarily has much anger against them, because why would you? You left for a better team. However, this is the one market I don't feel you're paying a premium on, because it's a very underrated market for a running back. The Panthers are going to be without their 2 middle linebackers, Christian Roseboom and Trevin Wallace. The Panthers have allowed the 7th most receptions per game to running backs, whereas McCaffrey, he's averaging 24 yards per longest catch the last 2 years when he faces a team bottom 10 against pass-catching backs. When McCaffrey's given a few chances, again, if you're going to give him a few chances, especially a team that is missing 2 middle linebackers, Christian McCaffrey should break loose on 1 catch. As for George Kittle, I mentioned before, the tight end for the Niners. Jared Block likes George Kittle tonight. I do too. I'm going over longest reception because this is what I showed you with Jared Block from Props.Cash. This is the Props.Cash home primetime games for Kittle for his receiving yards. Look at longest reception. 9 of the last 10. George Kittle has gone over his longest reception at home in primetime. 9 of the last 10. And he's averaging 30 yards per longest catch in those games. I just have, that is a massive, that's probably my favorite trend of the night is George Kittle over longest reception. He's right, Jared Block. You've got Purcell back. You've got Juwan Jennings. You've got even McCaffrey out of the backfield. Plus the 2 missing middle linebackers for the Panthers. The middle of the field is where the Niners should eat. We're going George Kittle over longest reception. Bryce Young over pass attempts, just talked about it. I don't love it. And then the Panthers, the longest reception prop for somebody. I know that I was comparing on the newsletter at thepropqueen.com. I was comparing Xavier Leggett to Titaroa McMillan. And the numbers shade better to Xavier Leggett. He's averaging 18 yards per longest reception when he's when he's on the road. It looks like Bryce Young goes to Xavier Leggett more on the road. Titaroa McMillan more at home. McMillan's road numbers are not very good. He's only gone over his longest reception number in 2 of 6 games on the road. Whereas Xavier Leggett's gone over in 6 of 10, averaging 18, where his longest reception prop's pretty low at 13.5. And then I also know that Coker is another one that Mid-Major Matt mentioned. You could look at him. I know that him and Jared Block are interested in the over 2.5 receptions for him. The number just feels so low for somebody who's been playing well. So I'm a little nervous about that one. There are 2 plays that I bet that I really like from that list. I bet them this morning. You could check it out at Pickett Sports at the Prop Queen. You could find me, subscribe, or you could just sign up on Pickett for free using promo code Prop Queen. And it would mean a lot. And then just all you have to do, use promo code Prop Queen. You sign up to Pickett Sports. You link your sports book. It's all good. That's it. And then you could just check and track all your bets. You could track my bets as well. You could see what I bet. You could see before I even get on the show what I bet throughout the mornings. You could see how my records are. You could see if I'm hot. You could see if I'm not. Pickett Sports is great. And you can also see where the best numbers are in the market, which is how I get the best numbers on the newsletter at thepropqueen.com, because I check Pickett Sports every morning to make sure I'm getting the best line. Anyway, these are the Royal Locks of the day. Royal Locks, Pickett Sports, sponsored by Pickett. Best bets of the day, Royal Locks, sponsored by Pickett Sports. George Kittle, like I said, over that longest reception prop. 9 of the last 10 went over. He's averaging 30 yards per longest reception at home in prime time. Christian McCaffrey over his longest reception prop. That went up from 15.5 to 16.5. Unfortunately, by the time I went to get to the window, McCaffrey's averaging a very nice 24 receiving yards a game for a longest catch, 24 yards per longest catch when he is up against a team that's bottom 10 against pass catching backs. And the Panthers have been allowing for top 10 most receptions per game to running backs this season. revenge spot for McCaffrey. If you're going to give him that revenge spot, you're going to give him that many chances. McCaffrey is going to take advantage. Both these players could take advantage of the Panthers, who are without their 2 middle linebackers in Christian Roseboom and Trevin Wallace. So we're going to go with the over on the longest reception for both. I did look at the last few games for the Panthers, and there have been multiple games where multiple players have gone over 15 plus for a longest reception. So Ariel said drop a hundo each. Well, I just think it's a reasonable number for the prop betting. And you can't bet much more anyway. You can't bet much more than that anyway. The books will tell you no. In fact, I got limited at one book this weekend. I won't name names, but I got limited at one book this weekend on my Baker Mayfield prop. So if you check out Pickett Sports, you're going to see I bet a really weird number on Baker's pass attempts, which lost. So thank God they limited me on it. But that was because I was limited at that book, which sucked. So I was really mad about not being able to bet a normal amount of money on it. But I wasn't going to stop. I was going to bet it. But they did limit me and did not let me bet a lot on Baker, which was very annoying. But anyway, I'm glad that they didn't. Thanks, guys, for tuning in today here on the Prep Queen Pod. I appreciate all the views. Someone asked in the chat, is this the last show before Thanksgiving? Probably, because I'm leaving tomorrow for grandma's. So there's definitely not going to be a show tomorrow because I'm going to be traveling to Baltimore. We're going to Thanksgiving at grandma, but we are going to celebrate Thanksgiving on Friday because we're going to the Ravens game on Thursday. Wednesday, I'm not sure if I'm going to be live or not. So there's a chance Wednesday, but it depends on grandma's Wi-Fi. Grandma has not updated her Wi-Fi since I think Wi-Fi first started. So if I can't get the live stream to look good Wednesday, I will definitely be making a video that will be posted to YouTube about the Thanksgiving games on Thursday. But either way, subscribe and like the YouTube page at Prop Queen Media. That way you can make sure, because definitely on Wednesday, there will be something posted for Thursday's games for Thanksgiving. I will 100% have you guys Thursday props for Thanksgiving. So either go to the YouTube page, check out Prop Queen Media, and you can find everything there. Or go to thepropqueen.com, subscribe to the newsletter, and I will make sure to have your Thanksgiving props there. Friday, hopefully we'll be able to have a show, and hopefully her Wi-Fi works well enough for a live stream. If not, I will definitely pre-record something so that you can have something about the games for Friday and the Sunday slate. But I'll definitely try my best, guys. Grandma's Wi-Fi, ancient. Grandma's younger than her Wi-Fi, I'm pretty sure. So I'll make sure to try. I will get something out there, and I'll make sure to alert you guys on social media as to where you can find all the info. But definitely we'll have something up for you guys by Wednesday night, talking about the Thursday games for Thanksgiving. Thursday, I will be in Baltimore, sweating out my Ravens. It's going to be cold, and they will make me sweat as 7-point favorites against the freaking Cincinnati Bengals, getting Joe Burrow back, who I freaking knew was going to be playing on Thanksgiving. I knew it. As soon as he went down for the turf toe injury, I said, he's going to play Thanksgiving. He's going to play. He is. But at least Trey Hendrickson's out, which is very good news for clearly an injured Lamar. So we've got two handicap quarterbacks pretty much. Great. It's going to be awesome. Can't wait for the defenses to blow 60 points. It's going to be awesome. But anyway, I will have fun with my dad and my brother. Good luck to all your bets tonight. I will keep in touch. I will see you guys in a couple of days. Happy Thanksgiving to all those who celebrate. If I don't speak to you by then,